What's up, guys? Rick here with your preview for this week's US Open. We're going to dive into this field, this golf course, and everything that I can come up with using data, using logic, using reason. And before we do just that, let me remind you, this is your last chance, and I'll ask you a couple of questions here. Have you ever wanted to play golf with John Daly? Have you ever wanted to win $40,000 in a US Open contest? Those two things are no longer mutually exclusive. You could do one, you could do the other, you could do both, because our listener league on Splash Sports this week is $150,000 guaranteed, which means someone is going to win $40,000 for the top prize. This is legal and regulated in 40 plus states, DC, most of Canada, so on and so forth. And that purse is guaranteed for only a $50 entry. And for every entry that you put in a PGA contest through this week, through the US Open, this is the last chance, an entry to play golf with John Daly and I, all expense paid trip. We have 3 members of the group, me, John, another winner that we pulled earlier this year. This is the final winner. This completes our foursome. So no longer time to wait. The link is in the description for everything that you need to get signed up and rock and roll. But this is, it's going to be a blast. It's going to be fun. What is not going to be a blast and what is not going to be fun is Oakmont, because this is, I think it's just going to live up to all the hype about how difficult this golf course is, right? So if you don't know anything about Oakmont, it is basically the hardest golf course that these guys are ever going to play. It is going to be souped up. It is going to be very, very difficult for a lot of different reasons. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, as I've been going through the research process, I take all my notes and I go hole by hole and I use the satellite imagery and I look at the data from previous years. We were here in 2016, and it only took me about an hour or 90 minutes into this for me to just throw up my hands and say, what are these guys supposed to do? You know, it's incredibly difficult. I don't know what they're supposed to do. So let's get into this here. And this is going to be a pretty long course preview as we go through this. I've got the satellite imagery here. This is pre renovation. So they did a little bit of some of nothing super major. Some holes have been lengthened, which will make it even harder. Some of the bunkers have been combined. Some of the fairways have just been like adjusted over, but for the most part, what we're looking at here is as follows. Off the tee, you are getting a jarringly narrow landing area, 20 to 24 yards, maybe 25 yards if they're feeling generous. You are going to see that basically everywhere. When you miss the fairway, which because they are so narrow, that is likely to happen a lot, you are going to be rewarded with rough that is likely 5 inches, upwards of 6 inches, and very, very thick. Most guys are probably just going to have to punch out. If you do not hit the rough, you are likely to hit a bunker. There are like 150 bunkers on this golf course. There's a ton of them. These are the church pews. If you're watching on YouTube, on number 3 on the left side, they are also back on number 4 on the left side as well. You'll see a mini version of these later on the golf course, but 23 yards at 300 yards, at 310 yards, 25 yards wide on these fairways. The other thing is, there are not a lot. Remember Quail Hollow, where a lot of the trouble you could just drive it over, right? You're not going to see that here. You're not going to see a lot of bunkers that, go into the fairway. And if you can cut the corner, you can cut all the trouble. So if you're Bryson DeChambeau here on number 4, and you think that you can even take this line, and maybe that's a bit aggressive. That's 336 over that bunker on the dog leg right. Let's go over the second bunker. If you can carry at 315, does that give you an advantage? Sure, but you're still now hitting it into a 24-yard wide fairway, and if you run it out, it is going into either these church pews or it is going into the rough. Countless of these situations. You're also going to see, actually, I want to go back to I think it's on the back 9, number 11. You're going to see a couple of these situations where bigger misses can bring this ravine or whatever you call this little ditch or these ditches that run throughout the golf course, those are coming into play. The par threes. I mean, there's a par three on this golf course that's going to play 300 yards. It's going to be the longest par three in the history of the US Open. Here's another situation. This is number 7. Bunkers, from 310 to 340 yards, 20 yards wide, bunkers on both sides, thick rough on both sides. What are you supposed to do? Even the par fives, here's 8. That's 294 with this just massive bunker up the left-hand side here. Let me get you to the back 9 here, because there are a couple. Okay. Here's 9, which has, pinches in even closer at 300 yards and has that ditch that it runs up the left. That's going to be a problem. 10, which is uncomfortably straight. Right. And that's the other thing. Some of these holes are uncomfortably straight. Some of the par fives, like look at this. Look at this at 300 yards. This uncomfortably straight hole has a fairway that is 20 yards wide. What are they supposed to do? There's another good example on. Here's the par. Okay, this is a good one too, and this is hard to see from the topographic stuff. But so this is the landing area on the par 5 12th, which is actually at 300 yards, basically the most generous landing area that you are going to get. It's 55 yards wide. Here's the problem. This slopes left to right, and the ball funnels to the right, and then the ball is almost always below your feet. Well, now, because you're still 300 yards away from the hole, you're not really going to be able to get there. So now you have to hit this very difficult layup towards going up the left-hand side of the left-hand side of the hole when the lie is hanging out to the right and basically going to force the ball to go right. So even this layup is so uncomfortable. I think this place I think they're going to get destroyed. Quite honest. I mean, even par, sign me up for that right now. When you look at the green complexes, so you've got some of the largest greens that we're ever going to see, 8,500 square feet on average. They are effectively much, much smaller than that, right? I mean, big undulations and runoff spots, and like they do not play 8,500 yards. And a lot of times, even if you do hit the green, you have like a 70 or 60 foot putt, right? It's kind of wild. So the other thing is that these greens are also always well protected with that thick rough and with bunkers basically everywhere. So where does this leave us, right? Like where does this leave us with Oakmont? There's rain in the forecast for like Monday, Tuesday, maybe a little bit on Wednesday. It's going to make this golf course even longer. The thick is going to be super nasty. There is a lot of winged foot in this. And I went back and looked at my notes from Winged Foot, and I looked at the satellite imagery. I looked at the stuff from Winged Foot. Those 25-yard wide fairways were just too narrow, and no one could hit them. So everybody was playing out of the rough, and the guys with the best club head speed were able to get to the top of the board. It feels a lot like that for this week. I think you are going to need distance. You are going to need club head speed. You are going to need the ability. I would say bogey avoidance would be very good. I would say that I don't think like distance of edge of fairway is going to matter. Oh, like lag putting is probably going to be very good. That's also kind of tied into bogey avoidance. But this is the hardest golf course I've ever mapped, in my opinion. I just don't know how to play it. You're just going to have to execute over and over and over again. It's going to be incredibly difficult. So I did also run a model for this. This is my website, RickRunGood.com. Everything from here on out is probably going to be on my website. Giant models and visualizations and database for golf. And this course, so this is the 2025 Oakmont model. So the way that I do this for major championships, and if we do not have a lot of data, is instead of running, so the regression model that I normally run, which is every stat for every player for that season, and then compare it on every single golf course and see where the differences are. This is a little bit of a hybrid model. This uses the data from 2016. It uses comparable USGA venues. So the USGA, US Opens, they like to set up golf courses kind of similarly, especially ones with length and thick rough. So that is thrown in here. Then also based on comps and things that I took from the satellite imagery, how long the golf course is, how wide the fairways are, how big the greens are, effective size, all that stuff. And it gets thrown into this model. So this model, as you can imagine, loves driving distance. It would rank as the 7th course with the most important driving distance. So there's only 6 other courses in which driving distance would be more important. Strokes gained approach, again, I mean, you're going to have to hit a bunch of greens. It does not love driving accuracy. It doesn't really love around the green play. Loves putting. Club head speed is high on this list as well. Par 3 birdie or better, bounce back, consecutive greens in regulation. Some of these are pretty wonky, but what it's creating is a pretty well-rounded golfer who can putt, especially, saving some of these putts for par. I imagine that a lot of these putts from 7 to 10 feet or the putting inside 10 feet is going to be for par this week, right? Those are going to be the important ones. So I think this is a really good model. Scotty Scheffler gets the biggest adjusted fit. Bryson DeChambeau gets the second biggest adjusted fit. Rory McIlroy gets the third biggest adjusted fit. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Sepp Straka is in here as well. He's a very well-rounded, good putter, good approach player, so he gets a good adjusted fit. Sam Bairstow, I only have a few rounds for him, but then it's Joaquin Niemann, John Rahm. I think there's a very, very short list of golfers who are going to contend and win this golf tournament, but I am shook, truly shook at how difficult this looks from up top. I don't know, man. I think they're going to get crushed. I don't know, but that's my vision. Let's look at the field. All right, here it is in all its glory, the cheat sheet at RickRunGood.com. Isn't it beautiful? 14,400 for Scotty Scheffler, meaning there is indeed a $5,000 range for this week. Oh my goodness, a lot to get through here. The big 5, the 5 golfers over $10,000, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Xander Schauffele, and John Rahm. Where do we start? I guess we just start with the best player in the world. Let's start with Scotty Scheffler here. I'll just get this out of the way. I'm a pretty firm believer this is going to come down to Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau on Sunday, right? The Scheffler stuff, I probably don't need to mention too in depth here, but he's won 3 of his last 4 starts. He's the number 1 player in the world. He's playing some phenomenal golf. He's doing it in an incredibly ridiculous manner. What's the word I was thinking? Sustainable is the word I was thinking of. So he has 4 wins. 2 of them, only 2 of them, he's gained strokes with the putter. T4 at Charles Schwab, he lost a stroke there and with the flat stick, and he was the tiniest little negative putter. Let's just call him an even putter at the Memorial because he is the best tee to green player and it is not particularly close. If you look at the power rankings for everybody in this field over the last 36, Scotty Scheffler is gaining like 2.6 strokes per round from tee to green. Bryson DeChambeau, kind of close, 2.4. Those are the only golfers over 2 strokes per round. There's only 4 golfers over 1.5 strokes gained per round from tee to green. It is shocking no matter how you want to slice this thing up. If you want to look at major championship history, well, Scotty Scheffler won our most recent major. He finished 4th at the Masters, he finished 7th at the Open. Those are his last 3. You go back to the start of 2024, add another victory, add another T8. Go back to the start of 2023, add a couple of more podium finishes. I mean, it is just ridiculous. You want to look at US Opens only? Okay, well, we've got 2 podium finishes in his last 3 starts, 3 top 7s in his last 4. The Pinehurst debacle where he lost 6 strokes putting and he seems pretty frustrated about the state of that golf course. That's the worst major championship and the worst US Open that we've gotten out of him in quite some time. Here's the thing that I think really helps Scotty Scheffler here. He does not make bogeys. He does not compound errors. He is not going to make a mistake and then do something stupid. He's not going to do something stupid and then mis-execute a shot. He's the best executioner on the PGA Tour. He has a caddy in Ted Scott that they have just figured out the process over results over and over and over again. This is going to be a battle of attrition. Scotty knows this is 72 holes. If you make par on every single one, you are probably going to win. That is worth a lot, I believe, at Oakmont. The ability to take the paper cuts, the ability to make par from anywhere, the well-rounded nature of his game that really does not ever put him in any bad positions for any extended period of time. I could go on and on and on. This is the most expensive golfer that I have in my database, outside of the very first tour championship where I believe it was Justin Thomas, who was 15,500. That was the first year with the starting strokes. Everybody was still figuring it out. Any other event, this is the most expensive golfer we've ever seen. I don't think the price is a detriment, especially with the $5,000 range, especially because of the value and the win equity that he possesses. I do not think the $14,400 price tag is a detriment. Bryson DeChambeau is $11,000. He is going to be very popular. He's $3,400 cheaper than Scotty Scheffler. He probably is, I have him as the second best adjusted course fit on this golf course. And his recent major championship history is spectacular. So he's got, going back to the start of 2024, so talking about 6 major championships, 5 of them he's finished inside the top 6. He has a win, a couple other close calls where he probably should have won or easily could have won. And Bryson, I believe this is probably the best venue that we've gotten for Bryson since Winged Foot. Also, Torrey Pines was a very good venue for him, and he was in that until, if you remember correctly, wasn't it like a 40 or something that he shot on the back nine on Saturday or something like that? It was just, it was nuts, but I think this is a much better venue for him than Pinehurst was. I think it's a better venue than LACC. Like, this is the best venue that he's had at a US Open since Winged Foot. He is crushing the Live Golf Tour. So I also get the strokes gain metrics. I have data deals with all the major tours. So PGA Tour, which gives me PGA, Korn Ferry, Senior Tour. I have a deal with the DP World Tour for those strokes gain metrics and all of their shot-by-shot stat. And the same thing for Live Golf. So if when someone inevitably says to you this week, I don't know how he's been playing on Live Golf, that is malarkey, right? I mean, he's having the best driving season of any golfer that we've ever seen. That's not an exaggeration. He's picking up 4 to 7 strokes off the tee every single time that he tees it up over the course of 3 or 4 rounds. If you look at the power rankings, the off the tee numbers are off the charts. 1.7 strokes gained per round over in the last 36 is nearly 3/4 of a shot better than the next best golfer, which is Jon Rahm. The Live Golf strokes gained, they calculate them a little bit differently. But they're still a good barometer. They do get a little bit juiced up because of the top heavy fields that they have, but these are still really, really good numbers. And what Bryson is doing, like he gained 5 strokes off the tee at the Masters. He gained 6.5 strokes off the tee at the PGA Championship. So this is not just like a Live Golf thing. Obviously, he's the best driver of the golf ball in the world. The other thing about Bryson that I love a lot, and I'll put this in my newsletter for this week. If you haven't signed up for my newsletter, it's 100% free. I send out data nuggets and trends and just weird crap that I come across throughout the week for every single week. The link's in the description. This is a club head speed course, right? You look at the key stats model, you compare it to Winged Foot. Club head speed, the ability to move that thick rough, is going to be critical. In 2020, when Bryson won at Winged Foot, he was 125 mile an hour club head speed guy. That's an insane number. He was the best then. He is faster now. So he's at about 130 miles an hour of club head speed in the radar tracked metrics. It's unbelievable. Okay. So that is going to come in handy quite a bit. I'm spending a lot of time on these two because I think they are going to be the two that decide this golf tournament, or at least this golf tournament is running through Scotty Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau. I have nothing against the other three guys in this range, but they, to me, are a pretty clear 1 and a pretty clear 1A. Let's talk about Rory McIlroy. I am not as concerned, though I will tell you the concerns are growing. I was not as concerned with the way that he drove it around Quail Hollow. He gained a stroke off the tee. Yeah, I know he was dealing with a backup driver. The stuff I saw at the Canadian Open was bad, obviously, right? He loses nearly 3 strokes alone off the tee on Friday, one of the worst rounds of his career. The driver was bad. I can forgive the driver stuff. I know he's going to be going through driver testing. He's going to probably have hit 20 different set combinations of drivers and shafts and everything before he even gets to Oakmont. I think he'll have driver much better figured out. I do have concerns about the approach play. So now we're on a 3-tournament stretch in which he has lost strokes on approach at the Truist. He lost strokes on approach at the PGA Championship, and he lost a ton of strokes at the Canadian Open. That is not a good trend. The other thing is, you can get away with that. You can get away with a small loss on approach. It's not ideal at the Truist because it's a smaller field and you drove it like Rory McIlroy drives it and you putted like a maniac and you gained 5 strokes with the putter. You can cover up some of those issues. If you're not going to be really good off the tee, you're not going to be really good around the green, you're not going to be really good with the putter, you cannot get away with this approach play. So there are growing concerns there. It'll be really interesting because he's going to be like, who's going to play Rory McIlroy, right? The negative sentiment about the way he's been playing as of late, the more expensive price tag than Bryson DeChambeau. But if you're going to pay up, why aren't you just going up and getting Scotty Scheffler? You can also go down and get Xander Schauffele and Jon Rahm. Who's playing Rory McIlroy? I'm not sure what the answer is, and it's going to create a situation where the guy with the longest top 10 streak in the active U.S. Open top 10 streak is going to probably be a little bit lower owned than he should be. That streak now 6 in a row inside the top 10 at U.S. Opens, a pair of runner-up finishes, of course, at both Pinehurst and LACC, events that I won't say he should have won, but very easily could have won. The one at Pinehurst he probably should have won. That is the Rory McIlroy conversation will be a hot topic on the Wednesday live chat for this week because we will probably hear, I haven't seen what his presser time is, but I'm sure he'll be speaking at some point. I'm sure we're going to get an update on how much driver testing he has done. We are also going to know what the projected ownership numbers are and seeing what the industry is going to do with him. I'm very fast. He's going to be the topic of conversation on Wednesday. The other two at the bottom of the 10K range, I'm quite bullish on. Xander Schauffele, Jon Rahm. I'm just like normally bullish, right? I think both of these guys have been splendid. Xander, I'm a big buyer on for the next 6 months. He is much longer now than he was in 2020 at Winged Foot, which is a U.S. Open that he finished 5th at. He has just dominated. I shouldn't even say that because he hasn't won, but he has never finished outside the top 14 at a U.S. Open, a ton of top 10 finishes, a bunch of top 5 and top 6 finishes. Tee to green game is splendid, and he's longer now than he has ever been. I'm in on Xander. If you watch this on a even semi-regular basis, you don't need me to tell you that. Let me give you the update on Jon Rahm. Continues his streak of top 10s in live golf events. It's like 19 or 20 in a row. It's shocking. He is doing a lot of the same things that he did well on the PGA Tour, which is to be a really elite driver of the golf ball who can work it in both directions. He's picking up a ton of strokes there. Basically second on live golf behind only Bryson DeChambeau in that category. And then we're starting to see that short game magic be back, which I think is going to be important for this week. If you look at his major championship record since he went to live golf, very ugly start at the Masters, in 2024, missed the cut at the PGA. He actually skipped out on the US Open. He had to withdraw last year. So then kind of everything recalibrates. And now we get a really good finish at T7 at last year's Open, 14th at the Masters, 8th of the PGA. So I'm expecting Jon Rahm to again be in the mix. I think Jon Rahm is live to win this golf tournament. When I'm going to say this week that there are 5 or 6, or maybe I'll even at some point, I'll extend this to 7 golfers who can win this golf tournament. Jon Rahm is firmly one of them. At this moment, recording this early in the week, I think the list is Scheffler, Rory, Bryson, Xander, Rahm. That's 5. I would also probably include Ludwig, 6, and that might be the list. Would I throw in Colin Morikawa? You might convince me of it. Could I get to Joaquin Niemann or, God, even Justin Thomas? Maybe. But it's those 6 that I am heavily focused on. This is a very tiny 9K range. Colin Morikawa, Ludwig Åberg, Patrick Cantlay, and Justin Thomas. The 2 at the bottom, not sure this is a great spot for either of them. I'm talking about Justin Thomas. I'm talking about Patrick Cantlay. JT has been wild with the driver since his victory at Harbor Town. He's lost strokes on approach in the last 2. The putter's been really good, but it's always going to be a question mark. His major championship runs are horrific. I don't know if he's putting a lot of pressure on himself. I don't know really what he's doing, but I mean, he's missed more cuts than he's made since he won at Southern Hills, the PGA Championship in 2022. Always seems to get off to a slow start and has to battle back. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know what it is, but it's just not setting up very well for him. U.S. Open, he's missed each of his last 2 cuts at U.S. Opens. He's missed 3 out of his last 6. He actually did play pretty well at Winged Foot. I like JT a lot, but I don't think this is a very good venue for him. I think you could spend your money better in other places. And then Patrick Cantlay, I just sit here and shake my head. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get. It's probably going to be one of these. It's probably going to be 5 strokes gained from tee to green. He loses 2 at the putter and he finishes T13, right? That seems to be the case. I give him credit for his U.S. Open history in which he's never missed a cut and which he's got 4 top 15 finishes in a row. I love all of that. If you look at just the season as a whole, it's been very good. It's not been great. And it is hard to spend your will because watching Patrick Cantlay can be quite difficult and quite annoying, and he might be out of it on Thursday when there are much more appealing golfers in the $8,000 range. And if you want to spend up, both Ludwig and Colin are at the top of this range. So the bottom of the range, I struggle with. I do not struggle with Ludwig Åberg. This has been a very bizarre year for Ludwig. He's had 6 very good rounds, 2 at Torrey Pines, and then he got sick after playing 2 really bad rounds at Torrey Pines. Then he goes back to Torrey Pines and wins 4 amazing rounds. Then he has about 3.5 or 2.5 really good rounds at the Masters. And then that was kind of it. Really slumps, didn't have a lot of great finishes, didn't have a lot of great consistently good results. I've liked what I saw at the Memorial, which was him finishing strong, shooting one of the rounds of the day, picking up 6.7 strokes to the field. And then he finally does it at the Canadian Open. He puts together 4 rounds in a row where he gains strokes to the field in all 4 of them. He gains strokes off the tee in all 4 of them. He gains strokes on approach in all 4 of them. So now we've got 5 rounds in a row where he has looked like vintage Ludwig Åberg. And it's funny to say that because he's so young, but vintage Ludwig going back to 2023 when he was in college, this looks vintage to me. And when you get vintage Ludwig Åberg, he is long, he is straight, he is powerful, he has a great demeanor, he has very little major championship experience, but the experience that he has is phenomenal. 6 major championships, 3 of them are top 12s or better, including the only U.S. Open that he played, which was at Pinehurst. Missed the other 3 cuts. This to me, I mean, his skill set overlaid on this golf course is nearly perfect, right? That's how highly I think of vintage Ludwig. So I'm quite excited and quite bullish about what we've gotten out of him the last 2 weeks. And then Colin Morikawa, I respect the hell out of what Colin Morikawa does. I don't think this is a great venue for him. I don't think that, this is a particularly great spot for him. He missed the cut at Winged Foot, which is his only missed cut in a U.S. Open, which I think is the most comparable U.S. Open that we are going to have this time around. I think obviously the Country Club was a much better setup for him with those tiny little greens. LACC, Piner, those are just like way better venues for Colin. I think this is a horrible venue for him. He is going to have to be so accurate off the tee. That's what he's just going to have to hit more fairways than everyone else. I don't know if that is possible. So while I respect Colin and I would love to see him win this, and I think he has the skill from fairway in, he's plenty good to win this golf tournament. it's going to be a big ask off the tee. He's going to have to do something special with the driver. But I still think I prefer him over JT and over Patrick Cantlay. But Ludwig here at $9,600 is seemingly splendid. All right, here's the 8K range, and this is where things start to go off the rails here. So we've got 5 golfers in the 8K range with Fleetwood, Joaquin Niemann, Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka, Hideki Matsuyama. The Joaquin Niemann conversation has to happen. He's $8,600. He just won Live Golf last week. The pricing came out prior to him winning that golf tournament. So he has now won 4 different times on Live this year. He is coming off his best major championship finish ever. He has done nothing in major championships for years until the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, where he finished T8 and he picked up 6.2 strokes from tee to green and added another 3.5 with the putter. Very, very good sign there. When he played at Winged Foot, he finished T23, which at the time and still for a while, that was like basically one of his best major championship finishes. On paper, I do not think that this is a particularly good golf course for him. He hits it low. He can rely on running the ball, but he has proven to me, like, I didn't think Quail was that good of a spot for him. I think the talent is big enough to be able to trust him a little bit here, or at least be more excited than normal. The problem is that he's probably going to be quite popular. So he's $8,600. So if you look at everybody in this field over the last 36 rounds, here's the big 4: Scotty, Bryson, Rahm, Joaquin Niemann. Okay. They're the only 4 guys gaining 2 strokes per round. If you look at the trends tool, you're going to find something similar. Joaquin Niemann right now in the last 36 rounds is playing a stroke per round better than his 100 round baseline. So think about what you know about Joaquin Niemann as a player. Pretty good player, right? Stroke per round player, 1.2. He's a stroke better than that right now. So we're getting high-end elite, top 5 player in the world trend stuff from Joaquin Niemann right now. I don't love this place for him, but how can I resist this any longer, right? So Joaquin Niemann certainly going to be making the player pool. Then what do we do? Tommy Fleetwood possesses a skill set that is really good for bogey avoidance, is really good for just parring a golf course to death, finding himself inside the top 15 by the time we get to Sunday. He did miss the cut at Winged Foot, which is, again, as we've talked about, one of my favorite comps for this, but his 2025 has been nearly flawless. In fact, he has not missed a cut this year. He has not missed a cut since, I think it's goes back to the Open of last year. Yeah, the Open of last year is the last time he missed a cut. So we're coming up on a full calendar year between the time that Tommy Fleetwood has failed to make the weekend or not. The $8,800 price tag, however, you're gonna need, I'm trying to think about this. Could you get away with like a T11 from Tommy at 8,800? I suppose you could. This is the cheapest that he's been since, so I'll throw out the Tour Championship because that was a staggered start event. It's the cheapest he's been since last year's US Open. He was $8,500 at last year's US Open. He finished T16. That probably did not kill you. He was 17% owned. 51.5 fantasy points. Obviously, scoring is much lower for a US Open. I think it's okay. I think it's fair. We'll see what the ownership is. Not super stoked about the price, but do like the way that he sets up for it. Now, the rest of this 8K range is kind of interesting. If you start looking at guys who play well on difficult golf courses, guys who play well at major championships, Hideki Matsuyama's name is going to be on the list. The missed cut at Quail Hollow, which he missed the cut on the number, he actually gained strokes to the field, it wasn't bad at all, is the first missed cut in 19 major championships for Hideki. So I certainly believe that there is a bounce back in order. Played well at Winged Foot, T17 there, and was one of the better players in tee to green play. Picked up 12.5 strokes from tee to green. That is now the 4th. There's now 4 occasions in his last 5 US Opens he's gained, I'll round him up, 10 strokes or more from tee to green. That's what I like out of Hideki. So I am not afraid to go right back to Hideki Matsuyama here. I saw what he did at the Memorial. It was not very good. You've got to take a little bit of faith in Hideki that he has spent the last week or so figuring this out. Nobody's a bigger range rat than Hideki is. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Another risk I'm probably willing to take is Victor Hovland. We're getting good indicators here. He just hasn't played a lot of golf. remember, he won 6 starts ago. Okay, he won at Valspar, has not missed a cut since, has nearly all top 25 finishes since then, has gained strokes on approach in every event dating back to Pebble Beach. The driver is here and there. It's here and there. And the putter has been much improved. He's gained strokes putting in 5 of his last 6. His skill set, major championships, difficult golf courses, that is where Viktor Hovland thrives, right? The ability to ball strike it to death. This is not Southern Hills with shaved down short grass around the greens. This is just thick stuff and bunkers, okay? Which is better for him. I think this is a pretty decent spot for Viktor. Haven't seen him since, saw him at the Memorial, but saw him at and then the PGA Championship before that. So only a couple of times, just hasn't played a lot. I think this is a decent spot to run him out. And then finally, just to give you an update on Brooks Koepka, because I know a lot of you don't get to see what Brooks is up to. It's not particularly good. He missed the cut at the PGA Championship. He finished 42nd in a 54-man field in Live, Virginia. T42, where he lost strokes on approach, lost strokes around the green. It hasn't been good. His best finish was earlier this year in Singapore. That was in March. Still driving it well. The rest of his game has kind of collapsed a little bit. His major championship record since Oak Hill is not very impressive. The T17 immediately following at the US Open is his best finish. Since then, he doesn't have another top 25. He's missed his last 2 cuts. So probably a tough investment to make on Brooks Koepka while the rest of these guys are sitting here. The 7K range is really interesting. And I think it's kind of funny they put Shane Lowry and Sepp Straka right next to each other at 7,800 and 7,700. They're similarly priced in the odds market as well. But I have a feeling that Shane Lowry is going to model a lot better because of the beautiful approach play that he's put together, the amazing tee to green numbers. Sepp Straka, however, is the one who's actually getting it across the finish line, right? He's won twice this year. He's got a ton of top 20 finishes. He's usually charging on a Sunday. He just finished 3rd at the Memorial. It's Shane Lowry who's got these unbelievable metrics. And when he hits a bump in the road on Saturday or Sunday, things just go sour. I mean, the start that he had on Sunday at the Canadian Open to finish gaining simply a stroke to the field is unforgivable. He was 5 under through his first 4 holes. I'm not expecting him to shoot a 57, but he's got to shoot a 65. He's got to get something in. And he just now time and time again, I'm thinking about the Masters, I'm thinking about the Truist, I'm thinking about just, something going sideways and him not being up to the task of keeping it on track. And Sepp Straka has just been the total opposite. So really interesting that those two guys are next to each other. Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth is back, my friends. The putter is very, very good again. He's gained strokes putting in all but 2 events dating back to Valspar. The driver is the best it's ever been. He's as fast as he's ever been. The club head speed is up. The approach play is better. The T7 at the Memorial, difficult golf course. Yes, let's go. Major championships. Missed the cut at Quail Hollow, but he did it actually gaining a stroke. So missed the cut on the number. Masters, he played well. He always plays well. And he lost 5 strokes on approach there, and he still finished T14. Yeah, he's made the cut in 4 out of his last 5, although that 14th place finish was the best. I'm a buyer on Spieth and the profile that he's putting together, and he's much, much longer and faster and more powerful now than he has ever been. The opposite is true for Tony Finau. Of the guys who played well at Winged Foot and are back in this event, Tony is one of the few who has actually gotten slower. His club head speed, I believe he went from, prolifically fast. I think he was 123, now down to 120. The results are not horrible, making a ton of cuts, not a lot of high finishes, never really in contention. The putter not only looks bad if you watch it, but the metrics say that it's pretty bad as well. He's an above average player on the PGA Tour, but I do wonder what else there is to squeeze out of that.
Golf season has kicked off, and there's no better place to sweat the action than DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for fantasy golf fans. Right now, DraftKings is giving new customers a chance to play free for their share of millions in prizes with their first deposit on the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. It's simple to play. Build your dream lineup while staying under the salary cap, then sit back and watch as your players rack up points. Every birdie, every bogey, every clutch putt, feel the intensity of every shot.
Ben Griffin's been one of the best golfers in the world this year, or at least in the last 4 months, ever since Houston, dating back to, I'll go cherry pick some numbers, dating back to, mid-March or the end of March, 2 wins, the runner-up finish at the Memorial, the T8 at the PGA Championship. This dude is sneaky fast. He doesn't have a lot of major championship history. In fact, he's been horrible at majors before this year. It's the first time he ever made the weekend, was at Quail Hollow, and he finished T8 there. I'm going to pull up the Holy Grail and just show you, again, I'm going to cherry pick this, but everybody in this field since the end of March, which is very cherry picky, but it's a long time. It's a decent bit of time. Let's see what we have. So here's Ben Griffin. He's also played the most along with Johnny Kiefer, but Ben Griffin's at a 1.65 strokes gained per round. That is strong. Neiman's at a 1.91. Griffin's been better than Sepp Straka. He's been better than Jordan Spieth. He's been, better than Justin Thomas and Xander Schauffele and Sam Burns and Rory McIlroy, all of those guys, right? So, I don't think it's a fluke. I also am impressed with the way he played at Quail Hollow. I thought he was going to kind of be in over his head. I did not see that. So yeah, it's strong.
Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter promo code RickDFS to play free for your share of millions with your first deposit. That's RickDFS for new DraftKings customers. Just download the Daily Fantasy app today. The crown is yours.
Sam Burns is here at $7,100. Man, Sam Burns has been laying down just the blueprint, the breadcrumbs. He's been showing us this was coming. We've covered Sam Burns ad nauseum this year, so I'm quite happy that he's just been following along on this trend. The best putter on the PGA Tour this year started to plug the leaks about 5 starts ago. The results started to come around. Started to hit it better for the first time at the Memorial, and then flushed it at the Canadian Open. This profile here, and I'll even go back, even the last 2 profiles, the Memorial and the Canadian Open, are just ideal Sam Burns profiles. He's long. Gaining in all 4 major categories is one of the best immediate correlators of success. He played well at Pinehurst last year. He finished T9. That's probably his best major championship finish. It is his best major championship finish. He should have won the Canadian Open. He should have won it. To make 3 pars in a row in that playoff, including missing a 5-foot 9-inch putt to Ryan Fox, you should have won that. But that's okay. Hopefully he's got a feel for it, because this is about as good of a stat profile as you're going to ask for. Here's the 6K range, and this is really the first noticeable drop-off in talent, but there are still some really good options here. Patrick Reed is $6,900. Patrick Reed is not a dog. Patrick Reed is the dog, okay? It does not matter what golf course you put him on and how bad it looks on paper. He just finds a way. He's going to do it different. He's going to short game it to death. He's just going to find a way. And the miscut, the PGA Championship, was his first since the 2021 Open Championship. A bunch of top 20 finishes in there. You would take anything inside the top 20 from Patrick Reed. He finished 23rd at Live Virginia, where he lost 7 strokes off the tee. Not sure what happened there, but otherwise the game was very, very sharp. He's not long by any stretch, but he will find a way. Okay. Akshay Bhatia is here at $6,700. He is starting to right the ship. A mini slump from the Players' Championship until basically the Charles Schwab. Now we got the ball striking numbers back for Akshay. The approach numbers pop at the Memorial. Finishes T16 there. He actually lost 2.5 strokes putting, and that's been one of the better aspects of his game. Finished T16 at the Pinehurst U.S. Open. He also played the Torrey Pines one, but I believe that must have been as an amateur. I don't think he was even a professional yet, so I'm not including that. But I think he did make the weekend. He finished 57th. Actually, I guess he's been a pro forever, right? Maybe he was a pro then, but he's not worried about what happened there. Cam Young. Boy, I guess we have to have the Cam Young conversation. If the Sam Burns profile looks good for Sam Burns, then the Cam Young profile looks good for Cam Young. And what I mean by that is that both guys are getting back to their peak forms. When Cam Young was the rookie of the year and piling up all those runner-up finishes, it was off the tee play and putting, and then he could hit his wedges well enough. And that's what we're getting right now. He's gained strokes putting in 5 straight, including 2 different weeks in which he gains 5 strokes or more. The driver is back. So if I go and just sort by his, let's call them his podiums here, I bet you we're going to see, we're going to see driver, putter. And then of course, he's, the rest of his game is good enough. They're podiums, right? It's going to be really good stuff, but driver, putter. And that's what we're getting right now with just a little bit more room to squeeze out of the approach play and the around the green play. Probably one of the better setups for him. He's only $6,500. Carlos Ortiz is someone that I actually just wanted to look into with you guys. He's pretty much dominating LIV. 4th, 16th, 7th, and 10th in his last 4. That does not even include the Asian tour event that he won in Macau at the 5th of that, the 5th of the last 5. But we only have, he's not played a major. So when's the last major he's played? LACC. Oh boy. See, here's the problem here. Carlos Ortiz is playing an almost entirely LIV Golf Asian Tour schedule, which is pretty rare. Even because he's playing well. He's got a couple of Asian Tour wins. He's got at least one LIV Golf win along the way, but hasn't gotten into a major championship, which is pretty rare considering some of those other guys are sneaking into those events. So, he's kind of more difficult to figure out. Man, hate the major championship record. He's got his best finish is 52nd, and he's played 9 of them. Love the play though. Yeah, I mean, listen, $6,400. I don't need much out of Carlos Ortiz. I would say I'm in. Rasmus Niergaard Peterson. In a bit of a slump that is, I believe, better than it looks. He's missed his last 3 cuts. He has gained strokes to the field in all 3 of them. So a little bit unlucky. He's missed the cut on the number in all 3. That's the KLM Open, the Austrian Open, and the PGA Championship. Is he better than the fields at the KLM Open and the Austrian? Yes. The Hanan Classic, the DP World Tour event prior to the PGA Championship, he finished 4th. That was, again, that was a stretch where he just crushed it, had a runner-up finish in Puerto Rico on the PGA Tour. This is a very unlucky string of missed cuts. So you're going to see him model well, and I'm not afraid of that. Andrew Novak, quick check-in on Novak. Getting mostly what we would want. He was miserable around the greens at the Memorial. That's not the end of the world. He's usually very strong there. Think about him and Harris English going at it at Torrey Pines. Is this a perfect comp to Torrey Pines? Of course not. But par being a good score, you're going to hear me say that 15 times a day this week. Nick Taylor comes up a little bit short at the Memorial, in Canada. Talk about dudes who are dogs, just a dog, right? And we've talked about this a lot. He's a streaky player. When he's in the middle of a streak, you get after it. Let's look at his major championship run as of late. Ooh, boy. Yikes. He's missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of his last 10 major championship cuts. That's not very good. That hurts a little bit. Bud Cauley, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. He's had a great year, but I'm not sprinting out to get Bud Cauley. I think we like Patrick Reed. I think we like Akshay. I think we like Cam Young. I think we like Ortiz. We tolerate Rasmus Niergaard Peterson. We're okay with Novak. We will take the risk on Taylor, and we're probably pretty neutral on Bud Cauley. Anybody else? No, I don't think anybody else in the 6K. Let's get to the 5K range. I'm going to skip the 6K range and not talk about Nicholas Norgard, because every time I talk about him, he burns me and then he plays well the next week. So I'm just going to avoid talking about him. Here's where you're getting a lot of the US Open qualifiers, guys that played their way in. They might be amateurs. They might be dentists. They might be whatever. I would love to not play a lot of these guys. There are certainly some PGA Tour guy, I'm a believer in Matt McCarty, and that has not been rewarded in 2025, but we are getting some better play as of late, including last week in Canada. Chris Gotterup is playing, missed the cut in his most recent start, but is playing some of the better golf of his career and has a skill set that will be really valuable at this major championship. I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see what the model has to say about. I mean, some of these guys I don't even have. I mean, I'm gonna have no information on. They've just open qualified. They might be amateurs. There's like a 17-year-old high school kid in this field. Jose Ballester or Ballester, I believe is how he might pronounce that. Just went to live. Remember, he made headlines for peeing in Rays Creek at the Masters. Finished T50 in his first live start. It was very, very ugly. He moves the ball like very, very high ball speed, club speed. We don't have a lot of data on him because he was in PGA Tour U. He declined his Korn Ferry Tour membership and went to live golf. So we were getting like basically zero information other than the fact that he's an incredibly talented, young, up and coming player. Let's model this out. And I think I've got a pretty good grasp on what I want to do here. I want to do, obviously I'm going to start, I'm going to do 15 on weighted strokes gain total because we've got to get that baseline in. Then I'm going to do 30 on driving distance. I am going to do 20 on greens and regulation. I'm going to do approach putt performance, which is lag putting for 10, fast greens for 5. I'm going to do scrambling because that is a par saving stat. I'm going to have to dial some of these down. I can't do 30 on driving distance. I need to do 20 on driving distance. I need to do 10 on bogey avoidance, and then I need to do 10 on hard golf courses. My number one golfer, no surprise, is Scotty Scheffler. My number 2 is Jon Rahm. That might be a little bit of a surprise. He just narrowly edges out Bryson DeChambeau. Rory is 4, and Joaquin Niemann is 5. Then things go a little bit sideways for me. Matt Wallace is 6. Very good scrambler. Pretty good on hard golf courses and fast greens. Good green and regulation guy. Yeah, I might overlook that. Hatton is 7th. Lowry is 8th. Ludwig is 9th. Ben freaking Griffin is 10th. How about that? So I'm just going to click some of my favorite names here before I forget. Let me just give you all the big 5 here. Ludwig, Ben Griffin, Gotterup is 12. Henley's 13. Very good for him. Spieth at 19, I want. I'm just clicking the guys that I'm kind of more excited about. I don't really care where they're ranking at the moment because I'm going to go back and redo this. Or not redo it, but this is going to evolve over the course of... Steven Yeager. I'm going to pull up his profile for a second. He's $6,000. He is the biggest club speed gainer since the 2020 Winged Foot major. Play has fallen off a little bit. His start to 2025 was really strong. It started to fall off a little bit, but I'm interested. I'm pretty interested in Steven Yeager. He is now as fast as Rory was in 2020. Now those guys are faster now, but think about that. That's the club head speed he's putting together. Okay. We got a lot of work to do this week. I got a lot of newsletters to write. I've got it's just one newsletter, but it'll be a big newsletter. I've got the live chat. I'm just going to be everywhere. You're just going to see me everywhere. I'm in the stat cave this week. I'm not going to the event. Oof. I'm going to be 9 monitors deep. Join John Daly and I on Splash Sports. Go join RickRunGood.com. You won't regret it. It's the US Open. Best of luck. Talk to you guys soon.